Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us today. We have a brand new story to share with you, so let's get started. I never thought I'd find myself sitting here by the window, watching the soft rain blur the streetlights, replaying that night over and over in my mind. At 60 years old, life had long since settled into a gentle rhythm, a comforting pattern of predictability I'd carefully cultivated. After my divorce, I'd immersed myself entirely in my work as an executive assistant at one of Boston's most prestigious architectural firms, determined never to be vulnerable again. My boss, Jonathan Harris, was the type of man everyone admired: calm, precise, and impeccably professional. In 15 years of working together, he'd never once allowed our conversations to stray beyond deadlines or project details. I appreciated his boundaries and maintained my own, constructing a safe, emotional distance behind polite smiles and efficient paperwork. But beneath this carefully constructed surface was a woman who quietly longed for something more, a whisper of passion or excitement that I'd long since convinced myself belonged only to younger people or romantic novels. On that ordinary October evening, just as I was packing up to leave, my email pinged unexpectedly. Curious, I glanced at my screen and froze. It was from Jonathan. My heart stilled as I read the words. "Dinner tonight?" My treat. "There's something important I'd like to discuss." A rush of nervous energy surged through me, and I found myself rereading the brief invitation, searching for hidden meanings behind its simplicity. Jonathan had never invited me to dinner before, not once in 15 years, and certainly never with such cryptic intent. My mind spun with questions. Was it a promotion, an announcement about his future at the firm? Or, worse, was my job somehow at risk? I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, aware that accepting this invitation might somehow alter the careful balance I'd maintained for years. But curiosity, a quiet force I'd almost forgotten existed within me, compelled my fingers to type out a quick reply. I'd be happy to. When and where? His response was swift, almost eager. 7 p.m. at Marcelino's. I inhaled sharply. Marcelino's wasn't a place for casual business meetings. It was intimate, elegant, known throughout Boston for quiet dinners beneath dimmed chandeliers and hushed conversations. My pulse quickened. Suddenly, my predictable life felt unsteady, like the rain outside washing away familiar landmarks, leaving me unsure of where I stood. As I gathered my belongings, anxiety mingled with an unexpected flicker of anticipation, and for the first time in years I felt truly, terrifyingly alive. That evening, as I stepped out of the cab in front of Marcelino's, the city lights reflected softly against the wet pavement, casting everything in a delicate, uncertain glow. My heartbeat quickened, a rhythm unfamiliar in its urgency. Pulling my coat tightly around me, I approached the restaurant entrance, hesitation gripping me. Inside, the gentle hum of conversation, the soft melody of piano music, and the glow of candlelit tables lent an intimate air that felt far removed from the boundaries of professionalism I'd come to rely on. Jonathan was already there, seated at a corner table, dressed impeccably in a suit I'd seen 100 times. Yet tonight, he seemed somehow different, restless, perhaps even nervous. He stood as I approached, his eyes holding mine in a way that made warmth rise to my cheeks. "You look beautiful tonight, Margaret," he said gently, his voice steady, but with an undertone I'd never heard from him before. I offered a shaky smile, hiding my unease behind casual humor. I hope this isn't about another company merger. I'm not sure I have the energy for more restructuring. He chuckled softly, but his eyes remained thoughtful, almost vulnerable. Throughout dinner, we danced around the real reason for this meeting, exchanging polite pleasantries, memories from the office, and laughter that gradually melted away some of the tension between us. But beneath each exchange was a subtle, lingering question: why were we truly here? Finally, as the dessert plates were cleared and the waiter quietly disappeared, Jonathan leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "Margaret, I asked you here tonight because I have something personal I need to share." My breath caught as he hesitated, searching carefully for his next words. "I'm retiring next month," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. And after thinking long and hard about this next chapter, I realized I can't imagine my life without you in it. His words landed heavily, the meaning rippling through me, bringing both shock and an unexpected flutter of hope. I stared at him, unable to form a coherent response, a swirl of emotions overwhelming me. This was my boss, my steady companion in routine and structure, suddenly admitting feelings I'd never allowed myself to imagine. I felt vulnerable and exposed, yet strangely seen, as though he'd peered directly into a part of my heart I'd long ago locked away. My mind raced frantically, trying to find logic or reason, but all I found was an undeniable truth. Jonathan had shifted something profound within me, and life would never be the same again. That night, sleep evaded me, leaving me suspended in a restless state between confusion and revelation. I lay awake in the darkness, the echoes of Jonathan's words playing relentlessly through my mind. How had I missed this? 20 years we'd worked side by side, 2 decades spent in the comforting predictability of meetings, reports, and casual conversations over coffee. But now, as the weight of Jonathan's confession pressed against my heart, I couldn't deny the truth that had silently taken root within me. For years, Jonathan had been my constant, supportive, respectful, a man who had quietly stood by me through life's mundane struggles and small victories. Yet I'd always categorized him safely as a colleague, never allowing myself to see him as anything more. The following morning, sunlight filtered gently through my bedroom curtains, casting pale patterns on the ceiling. My body felt heavy, my mind still clouded with uncertainty. I moved through my morning routine mechanically, the normalcy of tasks feeling foreign in the wake of last night's revelation. Arriving early at the office, I found a single red rose on my desk, its petals delicate, vibrant, speaking volumes without a note. My heart raced as I lifted the rose carefully, its fragrance stirring emotions I'd tried to suppress. How could something as simple as a flower feel so overwhelming? Lost in thought, I barely noticed the soft knock on my office door. Turning, my breath caught sharply. Jonathan stood in the doorway, his presence immediately altering the atmosphere. He stepped in cautiously, his expression unreadable yet sincere. "Margaret," he began softly, his voice steady despite the charged air between us. "I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable, but I needed you to know how I felt. I couldn't leave without at least telling you." I hesitated, feeling vulnerable, yet strangely grateful. "Jonathan, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's just, I've spent so long defining my life by structure and predictability. I've forgotten what it even feels like to take a risk." He nodded slowly, understanding flickering across his face. "I know, But sometimes life presents us with unexpected opportunities to rediscover ourselves. Perhaps this is ours. His words hung between us, heavy with possibility and uncertainty. As Jonathan left my office quietly, leaving me alone with my thoughts, I found myself wondering, could I truly embrace this unexpected turn? Or would fear hold me back, keeping me safely anchored to the life I'd always known? The rose, vibrant and unapologetic on my desk, seemed to ask a question of its own. Was I brave enough to find out? Over the next few days, Jonathan's words lingered in every quiet moment, weaving subtly through the fabric of my life until everything I knew felt uncertain. Routine meetings felt different. Coffee breaks carried an unexpected tension, and even my morning commute through familiar city streets became laden with new possibilities. I tried to convince myself that nothing had changed, that my carefully constructed world of comfort and professional boundaries was still intact. But deep inside, a new voice whispered questions I wasn't ready to answer. What if there was more to life than what I'd allowed myself to believe? Then came Friday evening, and with it, an unexpected email from Jonathan. Dinner tonight, just dinner. I'll be at Café Lumiere at 7 o'clock. No pressure, just think about it. My pulse quickened as I stared at the screen. Café Lumiere was intimate, quiet, and exactly the sort of place reserved for personal conversations rather than professional dinners. My instinct was to politely decline, to stay within the comfort of familiar boundaries, yet my fingers hesitated over the keyboard, a silent battle raging within me between caution and a deep aching curiosity. Ultimately, curiosity won. As I entered Café Lumiere that evening, soft candlelight danced gently across the tables, casting a warm glow on faces engaged in whispered conversations. Jonathan was already there, waiting patiently. He rose gracefully as I approached, the sincerity in his eyes easing some of my tension. "Thank you for coming, Margaret," he said softly, pulling out my chair. I nodded, heart pounding, unsure if my voice would betray my nervousness. The conversation began gently, navigating safe territories of work, anecdotes, and shared memories. Gradually, however, the topics became deeper, more personal, unveiling hidden layers I'd never explored with him before. Jonathan shared stories about his life beyond the office, dreams he had for his retirement, places he'd always wanted to visit, feelings he'd kept buried beneath a professional exterior. As he spoke, I felt a quiet ache growing in my chest, an understanding of the man beyond the boss I'd known. He had vulnerabilities, desires, hopes, and they echoed softly within my own heart. Finally, after dessert had been cleared away, Jonathan leaned in slightly, his gaze locked gently but unwaveringly on mine. "Margaret, you've spent your whole life putting others first, including me. But when was the last time someone truly put you first? When was the last time someone cared about your dreams, your happiness?" The weight of his words pressed heavily upon me, shaking my foundations. My eyes met his, and in that moment, I knew. I stood at a crossroads, caught between the comfort of the known and the terrifying beauty of possibility. Would I find the courage to embrace it? The silence between us stretched endlessly, broken only by the soft hum of conversations around us and the quiet clink of silverware. Jonathan's question lingered, heavy and powerful, piercing straight to the hidden depths of my heart. My breath caught in my throat as I searched his eyes for any sign of doubt or hesitation, but I found none. All I saw was a man offering his genuine self, opening doors I'd long since closed. I glanced down, studying my trembling hands folded nervously in my lap, my mind racing with fear, curiosity, and an unfamiliar yearning. I had spent years carefully maintaining emotional walls, shielding myself from further disappointment after my divorce. Now, Jonathan was asking me not only to dismantle those walls, but also to trust again, something that felt profoundly terrifying and yet beautifully necessary. My throat tightened, emotion flooding through me as I finally lifted my eyes, my voice barely a whisper. "Jonathan, I don't know if I can. I haven't allowed myself to feel like this in so long. I'm not sure I even remember how." He reached gently across the table, taking my trembling hand into his own, his warmth steadying the storm raging inside me. "Margaret, I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm asking you to take a small step forward, just one step toward your own happiness. Let me show you that you deserve more." His sincerity was undeniable. His eyes filled with deep empathy and understanding that spoke volumes, cutting straight through my defenses. Still, uncertainty gnawed at my heart. Memories of past pain whispered doubts into my ears, cautioning me to protect myself. Yet, beneath those doubts, something stronger stirred. Hope. A fragile, beautiful hope that maybe life still held something special, even at this stage, even for me. After a moment, I nodded slowly, my eyes misting with unshed tears. "I want to believe you, Jonathan, but I'm scared." My voice cracked, betraying the raw vulnerability I'd tried to conceal. He tightened his gentle hold on my hand, anchoring me with quiet strength. "It's okay to be scared, Margaret. I am too. But I also believe we deserve to discover where this might lead." His words washed over me like a wave, gently pulling away layers of hesitation. My heart, so accustomed to loneliness, began beating with renewed purpose. I didn't know what the future held, or whether I could ever fully trust again, but I knew one thing with absolute clarity. If I didn't try, if I didn't take this chance, I would always wonder what could have been. The moment was now, the decision mine to make. And as I stared into Jonathan's earnest eyes, I felt something deep inside of me finally give way, opening the door to a possibility I'd thought long past. The days following my conversation with Jonathan were filled with sleepless nights and restless mornings, each moment consumed by an inner turmoil I hadn't felt in decades. I found myself standing on the edge of two vastly different paths: the safe familiarity of solitude I'd built after heartbreak, or the exhilarating, uncertain promise of happiness with Jonathan. Each option carried its own weight, pressing heavily upon my heart. As I moved through my daily routine, the world around me felt blurred, dulled by the constant questioning that echoed relentlessly within me. Was I brave enough to risk the comfortable emptiness of my current life for the fragile hope of something more? One rainy afternoon, Jonathan came to my office doorway, pausing quietly before gently knocking. My heart lurched, a swift and telling reminder that despite all my caution, my feelings were unmistakably real. "Can we talk for a minute?" he asked softly, his expression both hopeful and wary. I nodded, my throat tight, inviting him inside. He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him, an unspoken significance in the simple gesture. "Margaret," he began, his voice low but firm, "I need you to know something. I won't rush you, and I won't push you into anything you're not ready for, but I can't pretend anymore. Every day that passes without knowing what you're feeling, it's torture for me." His vulnerability cracked open something deep within me, peeling away another protective layer I'd unknowingly placed around my heart. "Jonathan," I whispered, emotion causing my voice to tremble. "I'm afraid if we take this chance, it could destroy everything we've built professionally, everything we've been comfortable with for years." He stepped forward cautiously, eyes locked onto mine, their intensity filled with both longing and patience. "But what if this isn't about risking everything? What if it's about finally gaining something you've always deserved but were too afraid to accept?" My heart raced, caught between fear and undeniable desire. Jonathan reached out, carefully taking my hand, his touch both comforting and electrifying. His nearness made every doubt fade momentarily, replaced by an overwhelming sense of being truly seen. "Margaret, life's too short for regrets. I can handle rejection, but I can't handle never knowing what could have been." I stared at him, words caught in my throat, heart pounding wildly as the reality of his sincerity settled deeply within me. I was at the crossroads now, forced by circumstance and emotion to make a choice, remain safely hidden behind my fears, or take the leap into the unknown, risking my heart for a chance at genuine happiness. As I held Jonathan's gaze, I knew my decision would change both our lives forever. The question wasn't whether I had feelings for him, but whether I was finally ready to embrace them fully, stepping bravely toward a future filled with possibilities. The silence stretched between us, dense with uncertainty, yet charged with a quiet hopefulness. My mind raced, heart thudding violently against my chest as I tried to untangle the fear from the longing. Jonathan's hand still held mine, gentle but steady, grounding me even as the world seemed to spin out of control. For decades, I had been guarded, shielding myself behind a carefully constructed wall, one brick placed at a time, each representing past disappointments and hurts I'd promised myself I would never endure again. But now, standing here with Jonathan, those walls seemed impossibly fragile, mere illusions protecting me from truly living. Finally, I took a shaky breath, summoning the courage to break the heavy silence. "Jonathan," I began, my voice barely audible. "I've spent so many years convincing myself that solitude was safe, that comfort was enough. But ever since you told me how you felt, I've questioned everything. The fear isn't about losing you professionally. It's about losing myself again, about daring to believe happiness is possible." Jonathan's expression softened, empathy illuminating his eyes as he gently squeezed my fingers. "Margaret, happiness has always been within your reach. You deserve love, kindness, and someone who sees your worth every day. You've carried burdens alone long enough." His words resonated deeply, chipping away at the armor I'd wrapped around my heart, revealing a truth I'd long hidden from myself, that perhaps I'd settled for less because it was easier than risking heartbreak once more. Jonathan moved closer, his voice quiet, yet filled with unwavering sincerity. "Let me be that person for you. Take this leap of faith with me." Time seemed suspended as I looked into his eyes, my pulse roaring in my ears. Could I trust myself enough to trust him? Could I risk the carefully maintained peace of my life for the promise of something extraordinary, yet uncertain? As these thoughts consumed me, I felt tears welling, betraying the vulnerability I'd fought to suppress for decades. And then suddenly, clarity struck me. A simple, profound realization. I had already spent a lifetime wondering, what if? I couldn't bear another year of wondering, another regret, another missed chance. Slowly, bravely, I stepped forward, closing the small space between us. Jonathan's breath caught, his gaze searching mine, hopeful yet cautious. With my heart pounding, I whispered, "I'm tired of running away. I choose us." In that moment, Jonathan's smile illuminated something deep within me, filling spaces I hadn't even realized were empty. As his arms gently wrapped around me, I knew that despite all uncertainties, I had finally found the courage to embrace life and love once again. The days that followed felt like a dream I never thought I'd allow myself to live. There was a quiet warmth in the way Jonathan looked at me now, not just as his assistant, but as someone he genuinely cherished. Our conversations flowed with a new kind of ease, filled with lighthearted laughter and vulnerable silences that spoke volumes. I had begun to feel lighter, more present, as if some invisible weight had been lifted from my chest. And yet, as with all moments of newfound happiness, the shadows of the past weren't far behind. It happened one quiet afternoon. The office was unusually still, most of the staff out for a networking event. I had stayed behind to finish paperwork when the receptionist buzzed through, "Margaret, there's someone here asking for you. Says his name is Thomas." The name stopped me cold. Thomas, my ex-husband, a name I hadn't spoken aloud in nearly 2 decades. My breath caught as memories came flooding back. Familiar ones, painful ones. The quiet unraveling of a marriage that once held so much promise. The way he left. The way I pretended it hadn't broken me. I stepped into the lobby, and there he was, still tall, still composed, still wearing that polished smile that once disarmed me so easily. But this time, I didn't feel small. This time, I felt something entirely different, steady. "Margaret," he said, with a softness I didn't trust. "I've been thinking about you. A lot lately." "Why now?" I asked, folding my arms, voice calm but guarded. He looked away for a moment, then back. "I made mistakes. I thought I was happy, but I've realized I lost something important when I let you go." The room felt suddenly smaller, the air dense with history. My heart didn't race like it once did for him. There was no ache, no longing, only clarity. "I'm not the same woman you left," I said, not unkindly. "And the space you once held in my heart, it belongs to someone else now." He looked stunned, but nodded slowly, offering a small, almost regretful smile. "I understand." As he turned and walked out, I felt the final thread of that old life fall away. And as I returned to my office, where Jonathan waited, eyes full of quiet concern, I knew I had finally closed one chapter, and with it, stepped wholly into another. This wasn't just a new love. It was a new beginning. Sometimes life surprises us, not with grand gestures or dramatic twists, but with quiet awakenings that shift the course of everything. For years, I believed love had an expiration date, that the part of me who once yearned for tenderness and companionship had long been buried beneath routine and responsibility. But I was wrong. This journey with Jonathan taught me that it's never too late to rediscover your worth, to open your heart, or to begin again. Healing doesn't always look like closure. It can look like someone seeing you for the first time, even after decades. And strength isn't just in standing tall. It's in allowing yourself to feel, to choose, and to embrace happiness without apology. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced a moment that made you question everything or made you believe in something again? Please leave a comment below and share your own story. Don't forget to like the video if you found it moving, And subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Reddit for more real emotional stories just like this one. Because the most powerful stories are often the ones closest to the heart.